Trindade, a small volcanic island located about 700 miles off the coast of Brazil, is well known today as an important nesting spot for the endangered green turtle. But as you'll see in our next story, turtles might not be the only exotic visitors to this desolate island. It's high noon on January 16, 1958. The Brazilian naval training ship Almirante Saldanha is preparing to depart Trindade Island, Brazil. According to author and historian Amy Title, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more esteemed group of men in passage to spot a UFO.
On board the ship are a number of sailors and also scientists who are going out on an international scientific mission. As the crew members gather on deck before leaving, their attention is all diverted to this thing flying nearby in the sky.
The crew immediately summons their esteemed photographer, Almiro Barrouna, and he captures a series of images that would become UFO legend. A dark gray aerial object looks to be flying over the distant mountain. Zooming in reveals what appears to be a saucer-shaped object with a ring around its center, almost resembling the planet Saturn. Barrouna claimed the UFO approached the island, flew behind a mountain peak, and then turned back around the way it came. One of the witnesses, Vice Admiral Paulo de Castro Moreira de Silva, said the object was encircled by a greenish glow.
The crew all saw the object glowing before it turned towards Wisht Peak, then it turned sharply northwest and disappeared from view. The entire encounter lasted just 20 seconds.
Immediately, Barrouna's photos became an international sensation. While some were skeptical of the photographs, their authenticity was seemingly bolstered by multiple investigations.
The photographs were studied by the Brazilian Navy's Aerial Reconnaissance Laboratory, as well as the Aerophotogrammetric Lab of Cruzeiro do Sul. They were deemed to be authentic, taken of a real event, backed up by the eyewitness testimony of military experts and personnel. They were even confirmed by the Brazilian president at the time.
In the years since, however, new details revealed about the incident have drawn skepticism to the once bona fide evidence.
Barrouna held the negatives away from the Brazilian Navy for 2 days before surrendering them. He had even cut some of the photographs off of the end of the film roll. It's unclear whether he tampered with the negatives before handing them over or whether there was something else on the film he didn't want seen. And in August of 2010, a Brazilian TV show claimed he was known to have created hoaxed photographs before.
Both in spite of and because of the controversy, the incident continues to be one of Brazil's most famous UFO encounters. And that's saying something.
The Brazilian UFO archive spans 60 years and has more than 700 documented and researched UFO cases. And of all of them, this is one of the most legendary cases in all of Brazil's history.
Brazilian newspapers ended up printing Barrouna's photographs. He took 6 pictures in total, but the alleged saucer only appeared in 4 of them, supposedly because he was bumped by sailors during the excitement of the event. Something tells me our experts are just as hyped up to analyze this case. Visual effects and astronomy expert Mark D'Antonio has seen these photos before. In fact, he credits them for his getting into ufology in the first place.
I grew up with this image. When I was a little kid, this was my gateway UFO.
First, D'Antonio addresses the theory that this is simply a terrestrial aircraft.
Aircraft at the time had very specific shapes, and it doesn't match any of those configurations for 1958.
Astrophotographer Andrew McCarthy reviews another common theory that this object is simply a bird.
It's shaped somewhat similarly to a bird in flight, but birds actually tend to absorb more light. So they would show up as a shadowy object against the relatively bright blue sky. So in this case, I think we can safely rule out it being a bird.
But examining the shadows further alerts McCarthy to a detail he considers suspicious.
When you look at this object closely, you see that the top and bottom of it are roughly the same brightness. If this was a flying object, the top of it would be illuminated by the sun and the bottom would be in shadow. As since this object doesn't seem to obey the laws of physics, I have to start looking at other explanations of how this managed to get on film.
So are these legendary photos a hoax after all? One theory is that airbrushing techniques were used to create a hoax, but McCarthy disagrees.
Airbrushing film is basically like painting whatever you want directly into the film negative, which of course would be easily detectable by the Brazilian Navy. So it may still be a hoax, just not airbrushed.
If there's no smoking gun, how do we decide if it's real or a hoax? D'Antonio says the answer is a little more nuanced than that.
There's no way to look at this and definitively say it's a hoax or definitively say it's real, because there's problems with each of those determinations. But if these are a hoax, you know what I say? So what? Why? Because these are images that many people grew up with, and they learned to be critical thinkers as a result of them. My entry into the field is in part because of this photo. If it's hoaxed, it brought in a lot of people into ufology, and we were better for it.
Our verdict? For now, this remains a genuine UFO. All we really know is that a group of scientists claim to have seen a glowing object in the sky at the same time. We don't think the negatives were airbrushed, but we still can't explain the anomalous light and shadow. This flying object could be real, it could be fake, but until we learn more, it remains unidentified.